I'm actually not going to read from my book tonight. I'm a little tired of it, to be honest, but it's in the back if you want one. I'm going to read, because we're here at Ocean Beach, I used to live, now I live on that side of the Great Highway, but I used to live on this side, and there is a fantastic house you may have seen that's covered in murals and has seahorses on the window shutters. And there's a woman who lives there named Carol Schultz, and I recently profiled her in the Surfer Journal, and I'm just going to read the beginning of that piece in her honor. This is her. Long walks back home are routine, usually enjoyable, but having failed to get a single decent wave, I found myself wondering, at the old age of 27, if I shouldn't find a new home break. Besides the recent Coast Guard Ocean oil spill that tarred the beach, surfing OB was beginning to feel like dating a heavy metal groupie spiked on meth and steroids. Complex wave fields made you feel lucky to even make it into the lineup within 30 minutes. Memories of Santa Cruz reef breaks, channels flitted through like sandpipers. But the nostalgia was brief. Once home, my landlord Carol was standing in front of our house, hooting and flailing her tanned arms like a Sicilian mob boss. She was clearly in great mood, and when she saw me stagger up, she pointed and laughed. "Have fun in the surf, Jaimal?" Then she cackled in her wild and witchy way. I shook my head. I knew I was in for a story. Carol rarely lets you pass without one. So I put down my board and had a seat. "Oh boy, Jaimal," Carol began, hardly able to speak. She was smiling so big. "You'd never believe the wave I got. It was Jaimal, you wouldn't believe it. A double, no, a triple up. And then, bam, boy, did I get worked. Woo-wee. It was so fun. What a day. Don't you just love it? People don't understand why we're so happy all the time." Coming from any number of local chargers, this would have been a perfectly fine story for my ego to endure. No surprise in hearing that some guy who surfs Mavericks 40 days a year had fun getting worked by Mammoth's shore break. The problem was that my landlord is 75 years old. She has beaten back cancer, raised 3 children, and undergone hip replacement surgery. And despite all this, there goes something I don't need. She body surfs San Francisco, where the average water temperature hovers around 50 degrees almost every day, without a wetsuit. Let me say that again, without a wetsuit. The woman often gets in more than one body surfing session in an afternoon, and all that after riding her rusty beach cruiser several miles, dodging traffic along the Great Highway, then hiking another few to get away from the crowds. Most surfers here wear 4 to 5 millimeter thick suits with hoods and booties all year round. I was experiencing the type of reality check that would soon become a familiar part of living with Carol. How could I stand there listening to someone 3 times my age get her rocks off from a coastline that was making me actually consider taking up tennis? I wandered upstairs laughing. Maybe I'd paddle back out tomorrow after all. What excuse did I have? Carol Schultz is known by many in San Francisco as the Queen of Ocean Beach. Here's her surfing a beautiful emerald wave. She was body surfing Kelly's Cove, the Point Breakish area at the north end of the beach, with guys like Jack O'Neill, Bill Hickey, Van Dyke, and many other legends years before O'Neill even invented the wetsuit around 1952. But unlike the rest of that devoted crew, Carol is not only still here, she's still using the same measly rubber caps to keep warm and nothing more than her body to ride waves. Over the last 65-odd years, she has likely logged more time in San Francisco's unruly surf than anyone else living. But her royal title stems from more than an impressive time card. "There's no one like her anywhere," says Shelley Sullivan, one of Carol's old body surfing girlfriends, who at 10 years old was the youngest person to swim the length of the Golden Gate Bridge, also without a wetsuit. God broke the mold after her. Everything about the Queen is pelagic. It's her big pink house on none other than La Playa Street. It is covered in murals of marine life, seahorses engraved on the window shutters. The way a trail of sand literally follows her wherever she goes. The way she and everything she owns smells of saltwater and beach bonfire. The way her blue eyes glow with the color of a Big Sur cove. And how her moods can shift from sweet to ferocious. Try wasting water in her presence. The environment you spend time in eventually becomes who you are, Carol likes to say. I could pick any number of things Carol does as a metaphor to describe this message. How she almost never drives a car, almost never buys new or foreign products, absolutely never wastes even the smallest vegetable or smidgen of water. But let's talk about her refusal to wear a wetsuit, which, like most of her aesthetic decisions, is just an intuitive way of being rather than any kind of political statement. Having grown up around so many temperature regulators, air conditioning, leather seats with personal heaters, microwavable slippers, just jumping into Northern California waters for a minute without a wetsuit is the kind of thing that someone would need to pay most of us to do. Let's face it, whether we charge big waves or not, surf in the snow or not, with cushy cars and computers and whatever type of food we want whenever we want it, most of us have gradually lost a degree of toughness and certainly a degree of our instinctual connection to the natural elements. Changing is hard, but Carol's life is no struggle for her. Get close to the earth, Carol tells me again and again. If I go over, just beep. If you saw her at the beach, she'd most likely be sitting around a bonfire, half or completely naked, warming up between surf sessions. If you approached her to talk, depending on her mood, you might think she was raving mad, at least at first. Not because of what she was saying, that would be sharp, entertaining, and witty as usual, but because of the way her eyes are constantly ablaze the way some mad people's are, and because of her tendency toward openness with total strangers, the sort that most of us, especially in urban areas, reserve only for our close friends. She would latch onto a quick association from a question you asked, how were the waves? And leap into a story from the old days, about her years as a deep-sea fisherman, her years hauling timber falling off freighters, or one of the times she rode her bicycle cross-country for kicks, or about an epic swell like the one where her ex-husband had to pull her to shore after they both were smashed into the cliff at Kelly's. But the more you spoke with her, the more you would question your assumptions. You learn that Carol has plenty to support herself from a life of hard work, frugal spending, and a good second marriage. And she has actually been one of the area's leading crusaders against drugs. She was basically in a war of ideas with Timothy Leary in the 60s, encouraging youth to live a drug-free and nature-based lifestyle. Anyway, was that a clap to stop? No. That's the way most of us ended up here. My ex-girlfriend Siri and I live on the top floor. Jay Nelson, one of the neighborhood's best surfers and artists, has his art studio in Carol's basement. Tommy Bensko lives in one of Carol's big closets. Rotten Robbie, the gun collector and painter, guards the house and balances out our bohemia. There's Jimmy, the bike repairman, and Paul, the carpet layer and collector of old jazz instruments. Most of us ran into Carol on our daily beach routine, mentioned that we were looking for a place to live, and suddenly there we were, packed in like sardines in some Alice in Wonderland historic monument where egg-laying hens roam wildly in the backyard, raccoons feast in the garden, and people from the neighborhood leave firewood and food on the doorstep like offerings. There are drawbacks, I guess. There's not much privacy. You're forbidden from taking long showers and must compost everything possible. Absolutely no drugs allowed, and of course occasionally one of the vagrants who Carol tried to get off the street but didn't make it comes back and tries to rob us, camp in our hallway, or steal the house cat. But some of us couldn't afford to live in San Francisco without Carol's cheap rent. The Queen believes everyone who wants to live by the beach should be able to. Just like they could in the old days, she says, and not at these crazy yuppie prices. So she found some way to make it work for all of us, as she has done for surfers and beach lovers for her entire adult life, even if that meant she herself sleeps in the kitchen, which she has done for many years now. I'm going to stop there, but you should pay Carol Schultz a visit. She's the queen. She loves having visitors, and she's one of the best people in the neighborhood. We have a debt of gratitude to her. So thanks again for coming out tonight, and thanks to Jane and Litquake and the Beach Chalet. Hi, Chalet.